Hello, hello. We're going to get started with AP Environmental Science Day 57. This is for those students who are out on Kairos. So we'll leave the warm-ups on the screen for a moment. You can look at them and get a feel for what they're looking at. You can always pause the video and come back to this if you need it. But I'm going to go ahead and move us forward at this point. So there's your warm-up questions. Here's our positive moment picture. Nice little drone footage of I don't know where it is, pine tree somewhere. And then going back to our questions. So we're looking at advantages and disadvantages of burying waste and advantages and disadvantages of burning waste. And again, just a reminder, you got that AP test coming up, so you need to be doing something to prepare for it. All right, so on that note, you won't be able to hear it, but during class we've got 5-style out-of-space canoe race. So I'll play just the first 20 seconds or so you get a feel for what we're listening to. So here we go. So that was Out of Space Canoe Race by 5-style there. So continuing on past that. So again, Monday, the 29th is the scheduled Kairos day for the seniors. So this is the short introduction to chapter 22. I'm just going to go over 22.1. Got one extra credit I'll talk about a little bit. And then we'll go over the remainder of chapter 22 when we return from spring break. So anybody not in class today, it's up to you to kind of find this on Canvas and get what you need here. So test preparations, again, reminder every day or every other day, you should be going over vocab, multiple choice questions. I'd recommend 10 to 15 minutes, kind of going through those. Once a week, you should be doing an FRQ practice. Read a question, go over the scoring rubric, get a feel for what it's like. Again, reminder, the FRQ this year is slightly different than previous years, but we'll hit that up again when we come back from spring break. People are comfortable with that. Homework-wise, we've got a bunch of stuff kind of due today. So that's Unit 6, Solid Waste Inventory, the Recycle City activity, and then the remaining parts of the book project. We're continuing on with the warm-up, continuing on with the radioactive decay and half-life activity. And then there's a new quiz 22, due by 10 p.m. of 3:30. That's Tuesday. And then we've got the upcycle project, which I've got on the next slide coming up pretty soon. It's not. So the radioactive decay, I was going to answer any questions if people had any questions on the radioactive decay one. But the upcycle project, pardon me, your objective is to turn something that would otherwise go into the waste stream into something that is of value or use. I recommend doing an online search for upcycling just to get ideas. I've got a list of them on the assignment itself if you follow them. Come and see me I don't have material for you guys, so never mind that. You'll have to, I cannot give you things. So limitations, no weapons, nothing for food production unless the original material is intended for food production also, just to kind of keep us safe. This is at 4 points possible. There's 3 points to build or construct an upcycle item, and then 1 point for a short, a third of a page, 100 word or so description of kind of what you did. There's some more details on the assignment sheet there that you can look at it. So possible 4 points extra credit. So key things to look at. Today we're talking about urbanization, urban growth, some of the things associated with urbanization. And then next time we come back, we'll get into urban sprawl, advantages, disadvantages, and kind of all the things that go along with that. So urbanization and stability. So you can see some of the key terms up there. Let you look at those if you want. You can pause. Here's kind of the last few terms: urbanization, urban sprawl, zoning. And then case study, your chapter starts off looking at Portland, Oregon, which has been kind of a reputation for decades now of kind of being one of the top sustainable cities in the United States. They've done this through land control policies, land use policies, pretty active zoning. We'll talk about these things called urban growth boundaries, and then they've done a lot of stuff to kind of create mixed environments so that people don't have to drive very far to get everything that they need. And they can do kind of all the recycling and farmers markets and public transportation kind of through them. So that's kind of their gig there. And there's a picture of Portland, Oregon on the Willamette River. So I've never been there. Here it's good. So major pollution trends, population trends in urban areas. So we'll look at these kind of in specifics here. So urbanization simply is the creation and growth of urban and suburban areas. As of a few years ago, globally, 57% of people lived in such areas. That number is growing, or at least it had been until as of a year ago. I do not know if it's still growing, although I think it's at least held steady during the quarantine period there. Urban growth is just defined as the rate of increase of urban populations, and that's the result of two things. So there's just kind of a natural, births, from the people that are already living in the urban areas, but also you get immigration from outlying areas, from nearby rural areas, and they can either be pushed into from the rural areas to the urban areas as a result of poverty or degradation of the land, or they can be pulled into the urban areas from the rural areas because of job opportunities, health care, things like that. So both kind of a push and a pull to get people into the urban areas there. If we look at kind of the trends on what pulls people into urban areas, there's four major trends that we can look at overall. Proportion of global populations is on the increase, and we can look at this through the number and size of things that we call megacities, hypercities, and mega regions. These have grown significantly over the last few years. Megacities are defined by 10 million or more, hypercities are 20 million or more, and mega regions are 100 million or more. I think the biggest hypercity kind of region is, if I remember correctly, is Tokyo region, and it's got Tokyo, Yokohama has got something like 37 million. And then mega regions are one of the biggest mega regions is in China, kind of near Hong Kong, kind of area through there. Urban growth is slower in developed countries than developing countries. So a lot of people look at places like Southeast Asia, India, and parts of Africa, saying over the next century, that's where we're going to see the vast majority of urban growth is in those areas as they become increasingly developed. Unfortunately, poverty is also becoming increasingly urbanized in many of these less developed countries as they become more developed. So that is something to watch out for. And this just shows you kind of pictures of different areas. We got Shanghai in the top left, Phoenix, Arizona down here, and then this is on the right here is Malawi, somewhere in Malawi in Africa. So, and then here's kind of a global view looking at mega cities. Yeah, and there's Tokyo, Yokohama at 37 million, and then there's China. Yeah, this is the China area. Kind of all this through here is really just kind of massive mega region there. So, but some of the areas are also really big. Cairo is one of the most high density places on the planet. 14 million there. New York, 20 million over there. Los Angeles, 15 million over there. So definitely big. If we look at the United States, so key things with the United States, growth phase in the United States really kind of began between the 1800s to 2008. So this started with migration from rural areas to central cities, migration from large central cities to suburbs, and then finally migration from the north and the east to the south and to the west. And this most recent, this kind of migration from the north and east to the south and west was most strongly identified with the period of about 1980 to 2009 there. Other things that we've seen with urbanization in the United States, particularly since the 1920s, has been a reduction in urban environmental problems, so better working and housing conditions, air and water quality improvement, expanded sanitation and medical care. And that's started in kind of the 1920s and has gotten better progressively as we've gotten closer to today. But there are still issues with them. One of the other big things with a lot of cities is there's a cost to aging infrastructure. So you have to repair and maintain all the different things that we've built to make the city. So streets, bridges, dams, power lines, schools, water supply pipes, all that kind of stuff needs maintenance. And this is just kind of a highlight in the United States, areas that have got more than a million people kind of overall in that area. So that's kind of where the majority of the population in the United States lives there, so 54%. So, and then as urban areas expand, we end up with this condition called urban sprawl. This is with low density developed at edge of cities and towns. We'll look at different types of cities, compact cities versus diffuse cities. So urban sprawl is a condition of diffuse cities as they kind of spread out across the landscape. This is especially a problem in the United States. We've got a lot of land, and we've also had historically relatively low costs in gasoline. So this can lead to the buildup of highways and kind of a car-centered culture. There's tax laws that encourage home ownership, state and local zoning laws that kind of regulate the number of people we can have kind of per region. And then political jurisdictions and poor urban planning also come into play there. So this is just kind of a satellite image on it's Las Vegas, Nevada. So on the left is 1973. And you can see just how much it's grown since 1973 to 2009. So a significant amount of increase. So kind of the main strip of Las Vegas is through there. So it's still there, but it's grown kind of out quite a bit. But it's interesting, if you look closely at the 1979 graph, you can see they already had the roads kind of all in place. They'd already divvied the whole landscape all up, even all the way back then. So natural capital degradation with urban sprawl is a big thing. So this looks at some of the things that happen as the urban environment kind of spreads across the landscape. Loss of diversity, water issues, energy, air and climate, economic effects all come into play there. And so that's kind of where, as far as I wanted to get for 22. We'll come back for the rest of chapter 22 next week, or next class session. Kind of the review. So if you're looking for an interesting movie to watch, Blackfish is a really powerful movie. It looks at orcas in captivity. I think it touches on kind of really one of the fundamental issues with all zoos and aquariums is, are they good? Are they, what, they do good. They get people aware of these organisms so that people want to do protecting them. But at the same time, it's a significant cost to those individual animals. So it's definitely a hot button topic with a lot of emotion involved for sure. But a good movie and definitely worth thinking about. So next class period, which would be April 12th, I believe, April 12th, we'll continue on with chapter 22. So until then, have a great rest of your spring break, and hope you enjoyed the little talk here. So we'll play a little bit more of our song here as we ready to fade out.